Hey everyone, welcome to this comment response potpourri where I'm going to be answering some of you guys' comments and questions on a number of different videos since I was unable to expediently make a comment response video since I was on vacation and I didn't really keep up with my video making responsibilities. Sorry about that. But I am here now, I am rejuvenated, I am refreshed, my mind is just bursting with new ideas that were inspired by my travels on this vacation, so I'm really looking forward to showing you guys some of the new content coming out. But before we get into that, just a real quick bit of channel business. You'll notice that I did not label this video office hours, but instead changed the title to comment responses, and that's the title that we're going to be using for this series from now on. Now the reason I decided to move away from the term office hours is because to me office hours kind of connotes a more immediate dialogue and conversation than just comment response videos tend to make. So I've decided that I'm going to reserve the term office hours for when the channel gets large enough that we're actually going to be able to host actual like live sort of stream things on either YouTube or Google or what have you, and that to me I think evokes more of what the sense office hours actually is in terms of, you know, when you go into someone's office hours. So these will be labeled comment response videos instead, and office hours will be reserved for when the channel gets a bit bigger and we're able to actually have live conversations between us, and I'm really looking forward to when that eventually happens. So yeah, let's go into the comment responses. We're going to start off first with Ashley Flynn's comment on the video why we should believe the polling in the French election. Now before I actually get into her comment, I want to preface this by saying, in case you guys didn't know or weren't able to follow the news, that Macron did end up beating Le Pen in the French election as the polls had suggested. So Le Pen was not able to surmount the predicted 20-point gap. He was sworn in as the French president. So again, polling does tend to work. There were those differences that I said, you know, between the United States case and the French case, and you know, with the Brexit case and all those other things. But you know, long and the short of it is that when done properly, when done correctly, the polls worked, and the French election just was another indicative instance of that. Anyways, for Ashley Flynn, she said that it's really difficult in the United States case because of the lack of voter turnout and how difficult it is for us to be able to get an idea of who likely voters are. And to a degree, she's right. I mean, there is a challenge to that, and that challenge is definitely more of an art than a science, but there are ways that we can get a fairly decent idea. You know, there's evidence out there showing that voting is quasi-habitual, right? I mean, you can't be like a habit because habits tend to be like more regular than every 2 or 4 years, but it is kind of quasi-habitual. So if you know if somebody has voted in past elections, and especially if they voted in a whole bunch of past elections, we can get a pretty good idea that they're going to vote in this one. Their energy level is a pretty good indication, and there's a whole bunch of different things that we can kind of query to get a better sense. So it's not entirely hopeless, but it absolutely is a difficulty in the United States case. So it's possible to get a good idea, but there is no one unified methodological way to be able to flesh out who is going to be a likely voter and who is not going to be. So yeah, this is absolutely a challenge that we have when we conduct surveys and when we make predictions about elections. Spot on. Hopping over to 8bit3055's question on the current events log dealing with President Trump's leaking of code word classified information to Russian officials, he asked if whether or not President Trump had the ability to leak information, or rather disseminate information that was previously classified live, like say to a news group or to a newscast, and that would automatically declassify the information. And the answer to that is yes. Now, from what I've researched, and take this with a little bit of a grain of salt because it's not my area of expertise, there's normally a procedure that the president is supposed to do before he goes about disseminating previously classified information. Now, I don't want to say that that's a formality because that's not quite right, but it is protocol, right? It's something that they normally do. But legally speaking, yes, the president can decide right then and there that they want to just disseminate this information, and that would declassify it because it's no longer you know, being controlled in terms of who had the ability to see it. So for instance, if there was actually aliens at Roswell, let's say, the president came to know about this, he could just go out in front of a news group and say, you know what, yep, there were aliens, done. 60 years of conspiracy theory, 70 years of conspiracy theories, validated right then and there. And it's actually kind of funny that with the Roswell example, because a number of people I saw, you know, jokingly on variety of social media platforms were saying, even if they disagreed with Trump on a personal level, that, you know, one of the things that they might agree with coming out of his presidency is him releasing the truth about Roswell, since he has that proclivity to just tweet whatever's on his mind. But so far, there have not been any text, or not any text, any tweets about aliens and Roswell, or since Roswell. So this this was just a really, really cool moment. I had an account called the Dancing Spider-Man account comment on the video on what the Dancing Spider-Man meme has to do with conspiracy theories, dealing with apophenia and stuff with, you know, how we see patterns and things like that, speaking of conspiracy theories. So that was just kind of a really funny, cool exchange, and that kind of made my day. That just brightened up a little bit, so I just kind of wanted to point that out there. I'm going to wrap up this video by making a quick comment about a series of comments made by the Good News Channel, Political Junkie, and Draw Curiosity. Now, these guys are all educational YouTubers in various different forms. Like Draw Curiosity, she tends to make videos on a whole bunch of different topics. The Good News Channel educates people by informing us about uplifting current events and other things like that. And Political Junkie tends to talk about things dealing with society and politics all over the place, and it's really, really awesome and fascinating and enriching stuff. And these guys have been around the block a little bit longer than I have, so they were super kind enough and super awesome enough to leave some comments about the audio mixing and stuff like that goes on with these videos. So again, I am a PhD student in political science. I am slightly tech savvy, and I've always kind of had an artistic and creative bent, but the technical side of that has always been a problem for me. You can see the comments made on a whole bunch of the older videos, or just watch the older videos to see the reasons why people commented yourself, to know that I am no technical master. And I just wanted to express my heartfelt and most sincere gratitude to them and to everybody else who comments, giving helpful advice and constructive criticisms for what I can do to make this better, because ultimately I'm here for you guys. I'm here to educate you with the stuff that I've come to learn, I've come to research with stuff in the social sciences. This is a journey, and it's one that's reciprocal, right? It's one that I try to instruct you guys with something that I've learned, and you guys respond back to something that's inspiring, something that interests you, or something to teach me, and therefore teach a whole bunch of other people through the comment sections. And then to also make sure that we're doing this in a way that is, you know, the most visually appealing, or the most constructive, or just in a roundabout way of saying the best way possible. So again, thank you guys so much for your comments and for trying to help me with, in this particular case, the audio mixing with background music and all that other stuff, because it's really humbling, and I'm really grateful for you guys taking the time to try to make my content a little bit better, because I do look up to your guys' content, and yeah, so I'm out of words. Thank you so much. That does it for this comment response potpourri. Thank you guys so much for watching and for all your comments. Again, I look forward to reading all of them, and making these videos are just such a huge amount of fun. It's a blast. So thank you guys so much for watching and for commenting. Links for all the comments that I talked about are going to be down in the doobly-doo. In the next couple of weeks, I'm really excited for the stuff we're coming out with, because next week we're going to have a current events vlog dealing with the Republican Party and Russia, and then later that week, if I'm lucky and if I happen to be quick in terms of the editing, more realistically into early week after, we're going to be talking about House of Cards, because that season just dropped. I am so excited. Little known fun fact, I actually watched the first season for the first time in my finals period when I was getting my undergrad. So yeah, I watched that whole thing in 24 hours. No idea how I managed to survive finals and then get into grad school. It's a mystery to me to this day. So there's a lot of really good stuff coming out very, very soon. I'm looking forward to seeing your guys' comments on that, what inspires you with it, what things that inspire you in the social sciences in general, or maybe just drop a comment asking for particular video topics to be addressed. I'd love to see some of those and see what you guys are curious about. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.